Streams Light Podcast. I am Chris Anthony with you here on a beautiful Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening, Southern California. Live streaming on Facebook Live. Live streaming on YouTube Live. Twitch and Twitter. So if you're watching on Facebook, do me a favor, like the podcast, subscribe to the channel, and send me a chat. Let me know you're there. I want to know you're there. And just sit back and enjoy. It's going to be a shorter podcast today, so we're not going to spend too long. But, you know, I wanted to cover a topic that I think is lacking in the world of spirituality where we're at now. That's that. Thank you for joining me again, Streams of Light Podcast. So we're going to look at, can we allure the divine? That's a good question. That's a question that we don't really ask because the West is undergoing this transformation to more of a Eastern perspective in spirituality. You know, in the East, they know that the divine is one with the human soul. So in the East, it's more about awakening to that reality and then letting that blossom in your life. But there is actually in the East a band of marauders, and they're called Bhaktas. They practice this thing called Bhakti. And Bhakti is, by definition, it means attachment or participation, fondness for, homage, devotion, worship, or purity. And so in the East, there are the Bhaktas, and they are the singing minstrels that go from town to town, and they sing the chants, the mantras, and it's all about the divine. And really, it's about the mystery of life, which I would call the cosmic beloved, the cosmic beloved. That is the beloved of your soul. It's the divine spouse, so to speak. And the Bhaktas, they're happy people because they really, it's not like they don't have any rules, but they've really come to this place where they've just sort of arrived and they're happy and they're full of life. Now, because in the West, we've been going through this transition from what I would call a Western organized religion into more of an Eastern thought, a lot of people have sort of forgotten about devotion and sort of abandon it. You know, in the West, we have, like in Christianity, for example, we have what we would call worship. And that is something that is actually quite a beautiful thing. And so I want to pose the question today, is it possible? Could it be possible, even though we are united with the divine already, and we're trying to wake up and figure that out, could it actually be possible that we could allure the cosmic beloved? Could we sort of draw God to ourselves in a way that's more powerful than already exists in our own soul? And I would venture to say yes. I would venture to say yes. You know, in the West, we've had an idea of the divine as being sort of a white guy sitting on a throne. It's true, in the clouds. I know it's kind of funny, but you know, that's just as much as of a metaphor as a lot of what we see in the East with all the different manifestation, or, you know, with all the different divine names and you know, they have Divine Mother and so on and so forth, and Krishna and all these things. So it's you know, in the West, even though we have this very well, I'm going to use a big word, even though we have this very anthropomorphic idea of God being, you know, sort of, you know, this guy in the sky on a white, you know, cloud with a throne and people worshiping, you know, it has its purpose. It really does have its purpose because it you know, it goes back to almost the Jesus concept, what we would call the father principle or the father love, is that, you know, he was trying to teach a reality about the divine which is what? Indescribable. Even the Western holy texts, scriptural texts say that, you know, who could describe God? Who could think of him? His ways are higher than our ways. And so that's a concept that is definitely relevant in Western spirituality. But we use these anthropomorphic phrases of God being, you know, we sometimes use masculine terminology or sometimes even matriarchal, you know, feminine terminology. And we do that because it paints a picture like father or mother of a heavenly parent, so to speak. And so the question is, can we allure the divine? And, you know, there is something to be said about making yourself ready for the beloved. Guys probably don't, especially older guys, probably don't relate to this concept as much as females do, because and now some of the younger guys they're more liberated, and this is happening more with younger males, but not so much with older males in traditional, male stereotyping. But females understand more of what it might be like, especially traditional values in America, of how adornment works. Let's just look at a more traditional relationship. A guy might give a pair of earrings as a gift to his wife or his partner, and she might wear those earrings on a special night, like on an anniversary. And she might put on a favorite, what she knows is to be a favorite dress of her partner on, maybe one that he bought for her, or maybe it's a nice dress or a romper. See, I even know some of those words. So anyways, but this is adornment of self. And in the East, as well as the West, in the West, sometimes when you go to church, if your dad said, we're going to church, he goes, come on, put on a shirt and a tie. Why? Well, because we want to dress up for the divine. We want to dress up for God. And so, but why do we do that? When we do that, we shouldn't do it out of duty, but we should do it because, number one, first of all, when we bathe and clean ourselves and smell good and dress nice, we feel better about ourselves, number one. But number two, we do it because we love God. We love the divine. We want to show our love and appreciation, and we want to draw that divine love to us. Even though it's already there and we're already loved, we want to make an effort to adorn ourselves. And the first way of adorning, I believe, is not through the physical. The most important adornment, I believe, and this was taught by teachers all around the world throughout all ages, and even Jesus the Christ taught this for those of us in the West who were raised in that upbringing. He talked about spiritual adornment. So what is spiritual adornment? A spiritual adornment is doing so for example, if you have gifts in your life, if you were given gifts that you could use to help other people, that would be one way of personal spiritual adornment. When you use those gifts, if you have a gift of comfort and consolation, if you comfort people and you help them with the gifts that you have, consolation, comfort, or even if you're gifted with finance and resources, if you help people that need help, particularly people you know, or even strangers, people you don't know, this is spiritual adornment. And this is something that was spoken of by the Christ. He said, when I was hungry, you fed me. And when I was without clothes, you clothed me. And when I was sick and in the hospital, you visited me. Or when I was in jail, you visited me. This is spiritual adornment. Because more important than putting on a nice dress or a nice suit is the inside. The inside's always been more important than the outside. And when we kind of get the inside world working better, we find that the outside world looks different. And so I love that idea of spiritual adornment. And I also love the idea of prayer and worship in the sense, in what way? So in the Bhakti tradition in the East, they sing songs to the divine, and they make melody and music, and they sing. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever been in a church service that's a music kind of church, or if you've ever been in a Bhakti or kirtan gathering that has more of an Eastern flavor to it, that is, either of those, to me, it's all the same thing. It has the same result. It's very uplifting, it's very cleansing, and it's very unifying for the people doing it. It brings them together as they sing in harmony, and they're drawing that divine love and power as they gather in unity. So I love the idea of spiritual adornment. And I love the idea of singing. Now, one of the things that I think is important when it comes to adorning ourselves and alluring the divine, because, the truth is, I don't know about you, but every day I need something more than what I seem to have going in my own energy field. And I need more. I need some sort of transcendent love, some sort of transcendent power or energy coming into my personal space in order that I can have a better disposition, a better mood, a better outlook on life. Physically, I need that. I need that physically in order that I can have a more health and well-being in my own soul and in my own mind. Mental health, well-being. It's so important to have a good attitude and to feel good about life. So I need daily to get that sort of manna that comes from above, that spiritual blessing, if you will. Now, one of the things we've learned in our spiritual, in our spiritual quest is pray, meditate, be still, know God, talk to God, commune with God, ask God. These are all good things, I think. And sometimes because the West is turning to the East for the hidden keys and the missing life that we've forgotten in our materialism and in our bigger is better kind of American and Western values, we're turning to the East to find out that the divine is already within us, that we have this thing called, the divine life, Holy Spirit or Kundalini Shakti already within us. Once we turn to the East and we find out these things, we may just forget, the need to practice this daily divine allurement, this adornment of our inner self and our outer self. And so we're told, pray with all your heart, pray with all your thoughts, with all your mind, with everything that's within you. That is such a good recommendation, because when we do that, what do? We create coherence. Coherence is so huge, because if you think of your body, for example, your body has millions and millions of cells that are all made up of small particles, atoms and molecules. Everything is spinning and moving and vibrating and making sound. The sound is powerful, and the body is already working in coherence. If you think about it, every cell knows in each individual organ what its role is. There's a built-in coherence in the body. So what do we need to do? We don't really need to do much when it comes to those things, because they just work, right? The liver detoxifies, and the heart pumps the blood. The brain thinks and helps us perform daily physical tasks. The muscles, the nervous system, all these things working in unison is pretty powerful if you think about the coherence that's already there in our body. So the only thing that's really needful is that we create, the mind, as you know, is a wandering pile of rocks at times, to say it mildly. And so what do? We take certain practices up to create coherence in our own mental state. We do this through the breath, through the practices of breathing and calming the breath and being still and knowing that the I am that's in our consciousness is the same I am, the great I am, that is part of the whole universe. So we create this coherence, and by doing that, we sometimes petition too. That's okay. So sometimes we ask God for help when we feel sick, or we need help financially or courage or what strength or whatever. That's good. Those are good things to ask. You don't have it because you don't ask for it. So we need to ask. But then we create, I want to give you an example about asking and receiving, because I think this is overlooked as we, of course, switch, as I said, to that Eastern mindset. Ask, because if you don't have it, it might be because you haven't asked for it. I have 2 cats. Kind of surprised they're not asking me right now. They ask for a lot. They ask for food when they've already had it. They ask to go outside when it's late and it's like last night was stormy and hailing and they think they want to go outside. But, sometimes they just keep asking. And they might ask for food. I might feed them at 8 a.m. and then they ask for second breakfast, kind of like the Hobbit. They ask for second and third breakfast sometimes, not too long after, because they have little stomachs, right? And I have to be compassionate. Sometimes I don't have time, or I think you already ate. You should be fine. But then they keep asking and asking. And then I go, okay, fine. But then I realize, they've got little stomachs and they're hungry. So I give them what they need. Now, this was used as an illustration by the Christ for us to keep asking this kind of thing, this kind of repetition and persistence. So we persist. And then sometimes we need to be open-hearted without judgment of how the answer is going to come. I have 3 cats I feed, 2 that live in my house, and then I have Bruiser Boy who lives downstairs. He's a neighborhood feral cat. The unfortunate thing about Bruiser is he just doesn't get it. Because he's feral and he's afraid for his life, wild cat, he thinks, even though I feed him every day, he still thinks in the back of his mind that I want to kill him because he runs and hisses when I get near because he's feral. Even though I'm feeding him already, just like some people in life, even though the divine has given them health and a job and sunshine and friends and a car and a house, a roof with shelter, loved ones, they still don't know. They still don't know. And they have this mindset of how things should look in their life. And they don't know that there's more. They might think of God as being angry at them because of their life, or they might have been told that he didn't like them, or that they had to do certain things to please God. But they, like the feral cat, I just want to love that cat. I'm already feeding it, and I want to give that cat more, but that cat doesn't understand. It runs. It has a mindset of where safety lies. It thinks that if I'm too close, that danger lies ahead. And if I'm far, that safety lies ahead. But actually, it's actually the opposite. If that cat would get close to me and just let go of all those fears, then I could pet that cat. I could administer some chewing lice, drops, so it wouldn't be in torment so much. So it's really important as we ask persistently that our expectations are open, that we're open so we could receive, because the ultimate objective, and this is, why am I saying all this stuff? I'm not saying it because I want anyone out there to be like really dogmatic or religious or really regimented in their spiritual practice. I want people to know about this concept of the beloved. This concept of the beloved has been written about across the face of the earth. The cosmic beloved, as some refer to this loved one, the divine beloved, or just the beloved. And this is in all sacred texts. This was in the realm of Islam. You have the Sufi mystics, and the wonderful poet Rumi wrote about the beloved, the cosmic beloved, very frequently. And so there you have it. In Sufi mysticism, you have the beloved. In the Judaism tradition, the tradition of Judaism, Solomon wrote in the Proverbs and in the Wisdom of Solomon about the beloved. And we also see that even in the New Testament, that the writers of the New Testament called Jesus the bridegroom, and we also see that he was the beloved. So the terminology of beloved is a beautiful term. And this is kind of crazy, but I'm just going to say this because as we get closer to where we're going right now in humanity and in the awakening that's happening in the spiritual progression, we're getting closer to accept this. So I'm going to be a little bit on the edge here, a little bit of maybe of a forerunner, maybe. It's kind of edgy. I asked some monks once if they were okay with this, and they kind of like didn't They want to talk about it. But when we talk about love, we talk about divine love, we have these different words. Like even in Greek, we have this word of friendship. That's where we get the city of brotherly love is what? Philadelphia. Phileos. That's the brotherly love. And we have this unconditional love. In Greek, they call it agape love. But then we have this other love, eros. That love we only use with the term erotic, and we only talk about it, with human love, really, for the most part. It's a little bit unfortunate, though, because the love of the divine is all-encompassing, and it contains all that love. That's why those writers of old, thousands of years ago in some cases, were talking about the cosmic beloved, the divine beloved, because it's a spousal love. Now, some of the monasteries have this as part of their practices. There's different orders of different monasteries in different religions throughout the world. The Carmelite nuns, for example, they have a vow. The nuns in the Carmelite monasteries have a vow to chastity. Well, not so much just because they want to be chaste for the sake of being chaste, but because they're married. In the Christian tradition, the nuns are married to Christ. And in the ceremony, what do? They lay down on the ground with their hands sort of out, and they're just surrendered, and they become what? They become the bride of Christ. And this is they are married to God, the divine, the cosmic beloved. And let me tell you, this is no longer just for people in monasteries. It may sound crazy. It may sound like you have to do crazy things. You have to give up, all these. It's not that way. It's a matter of opening our hearts and realizing now we adorn ourselves. Why? Because in human relationships, we make ourselves beautiful. We do those acts of service that show and help us improve to ourselves that there is an innate goodness in our hearts. And we adorn ourselves. Why? Because it's important. It's important to prepare our hearts for this beautiful love. And when we feel that love, when we feel that divine love, which is what? It's spiritual. We can experience it through people. The cosmic beloved loves us through our partner. There's no doubt about it. That's why people get so brokenhearted when relationships end, because they feel like it's the end. But really, the cosmic beloved will not forsake you or leave you alone, will not forget about you, will not abandon you. The Christ himself said as he went to the cross, he said, I will not leave you orphans. I will not abandon you or bereave you by leaving you. This divine beloved never leaves us alone. We are always being hunted by this divine lover. And if you have that divine love in a human relationship, which I think is part of the plan, the mystery of life is that in the union of human beings is the divine love. And when it ends, it never really ends. It's just like a life that ceases to live physically. That body may be empty. The spirit may leave the body. The soul may fly away to its heavenly home, but the body is not the life. The life continues. It's the same way with love. If love leaves a relationship or a relationship splits and goes in two different directions, the cosmic beloved will not leave you alone. You need not fear or despair. And you always can receive that love by the very act of believing and being still and connecting with that divine current of universal love. So this is divine allurement. It's the secret of life, in my mind, in one sense, that we can have this sacred love that no one else can see or hear. It's almost like one of my favorite comedians talks about when people give him a tour of the house, and he goes, when we go in the master bedroom, he goes, I don't stay. He just goes, okay, yeah, this is cool. And he always walks out of the master bedroom. Why does he do that? Because he knows that's where it all happens, in the master bedroom, right? This is where it all goes down. So out of respect, he goes, okay, yeah, off to where's the bathroom? Where's the guest room? But I get that. What he's saying is very funny. This is Sebastian Maniscalco. And if you should look that up. But it's a funny clip on YouTube. And I love it because there is a sense in which, that beautiful intimacy is private. And it's interesting that the cosmic beloved, the divine beloved, that love, even though it can be poured out on massive groups of people in worship time, revival time, Bhakti, Kirtan, much of the time we experience it one-on-one in the secret place of the Most High, as the writers of old said. And as the writer of the Song of Songs wrote, oh, my beloved, where is my beloved? I walk the streets late at night looking for my beloved. Where is he? So the longing heart, the human heart that is longing for that divine love, and that divine love in beautiful response, answering, never, sometimes delaying for a season or for a short time, but never abandoning, never bereaving, never forgetting, but always pursuing. This is one of the great secrets of the spiritual journey. The blessed divine beloved, that love relationship, that's always there. It's always there. You're never alone. When you're a child, you're with mama in most cases, because she could feed you wherever you go. And so you have that union, that beautiful partaking of her very substance that's been prepared before you even came. And then one day you get older and you get weaned. And now, as it says in the old scriptures of the Jewish tradition, the Lord, Yahweh, said, I saw you and you were left in a field and you were still bloody from childbirth and no one had cleaned you. And he said, and I picked you up and I cleaned you off, I washed you off, and I put swaddling clothes around you. And then he said he came along later and he saw that your body had matured and you were, this is an illustration. Your body had matured and you were ready. And he said, and I saw you were ready for love. He's using the physical illustration of puberty for what reason? Because everyone in life at some point gets to that juncture where they've looked high and low. They've tried every physical thing they could think of or afford or do. And they finally came to that realization that there's still this great abyss that can only be filled by the cosmic beloved. And then the divine beloved, the cosmic beloved comes along and says, and I saw that you were mature. It says in that Old Testament text, I saw that your breasts were mature and you were ready for love. And what is that saying? It says that you're finally developed and you're finally ready. So here's the cosmic beloved for you, for me. If you're ready, and if you're not, that's okay. There's always a later time. Streams of Light, I'm Chris Anthony. Thanks for joining me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. And we'll see you next time.